Bleach is a Japanese action fantasy film from 2018. The plot of the film follows a Japanese high schooler, Ichigo, who is born with the power to see ghosts. He wants to get rid of the powers, but before doing so, he must fight against evil spirits and assist lost souls to find their way to the afterlife. In the pre-credit scene, a young boy, Ichigo Kurosaki, is seen walking alongside the road with his mother, Masaki, during heavy rain. All of a sudden, Ichigo sees a young girl standing by a river without an umbrella. Being a compassionate boy, he attempts to lend his umbrella to her. As soon as the girl turns towards Ichigo, he faints and the scene cuts. The movie then continues in Karakura Town, where Ichigo Kurosaki is now a 15-year-old grown-up high school student with orange hair and brown eyes. He has the ability to see ghosts and is seen beating up 3 grown-ups for running over the flowers of the ghost kid. He makes them apologize to the unseen kid and later asks the ghost kid to stop wandering around and go to heaven. When Ichigo is about to be attacked from behind, his friend, Chad, helps him. As Ichigo returns home, his father scolds him for being late for dinner. Ichigo lives with his father, Ishin, and his younger twin sisters, Yuzu and Karin. Yuzu asks her father not to be strict with Ichigo, as he is stressed lately after encountering so many ghosts. Ishin misses his wife, Masaki, who has died, leaving the responsibility of the kids to her husband. In his room, Ichigo suddenly sees a young lady in a black kimono named Rukia Kuchiki, who is a psychopomp. She is surprised to know that Ichigo can see her. Just then, another ghost appears. Rukia sends the departed soul to the Soul Society. She has actually come to hunt down a hollow named Fishbone D. Ichigo is shocked to see how she disappeared the soul in thin air, and keeps asking her questions. Exasperated, Rukia uses her spell to bind Ichigo's hands, and then introduces herself as a Soul Reaper. All of a sudden, Ichigo hears Yuzu screaming, and he breaks himself loose to go check on his sister. Rukia is surprised to see how a human could break her spell. Yuzu tells Ichigo that she heard a terrible voice. Suddenly, an explosion takes place, and Yuzu is taken away by a giant creature. Ichigo runs to save his sister and is surprised to see a giant monster, Hollow. Turns out that it is Fishbone D that Rukia had come to hunt down. So, she helps Ichigo take back Yuzu, and then, while taking down the creature, explains to Ichigo that he must have high spiritual pressure. That is why he is able to see a Hollow. A Hollow is basically a soul that remains among humans and transforms into monstrous beings that eat away high spiritual souls. That is the reason the Hollow has come after Ichigo. Rukia uses her powers to combat Fishbone D, but is injured in the process. She is worried that the Hollow will devour her and Ichigo's high spiritual soul if she doesn't fight back. So she is forced to ask Ichigo to become a Soul Reaper. Ichigo is overwhelmed and confused, so Rukia elucidates that only Soul Reapers can destroy Hollows, and that she can make Ichigo a Reaper by stabbing him with her sword. This will inject her energy into Ichigo. Having no other choice but to save himself and his family, Ichigo decides to become the Reaper and takes the sword in his chest. As soon as the soul-reaping powers are transferred to him, he transforms into a powerful man wearing a black kimono and having a giant sword. He takes down the Hollow with full swing, cutting it down into pieces with his sword. Seeing this, Rukia still can't believe that Ichigo is a human. The next morning, Ichigo wakes up sweating. He thinks that whatever happened last night was just a bad dream. But his happiness is short-lived when he sees the broken wall of his house. He quickly asks Yuzu if she remembers about last night, but Yuzu is clueless. In the next scene, Ichigo's classmate, Orihime, is seen fantasizing about him. Just then, Ichigo walks into the class, and his friends inquire about how a truck crashed into his house last night. Ichigo then tells them the truth, that it wasn't a truck that crashed into his house, but the hand of a giant monster. Listening to this, his friends think that Ichigo has lost it, and that he should go see a doctor. Just then, a new student walks into class, and she is none other than Rukia Kuchiki. Ichigo is understandably surprised to see her. Rukia asks Ichigo not to cause any scene by magically writing this message in Ichigo's textbook. Later, on the school's rooftop, Ichigo asks Rukia to go back to the Soul Society, but it turns out that only Reapers can return back. Rukia explains that unfortunately all her powers have been transferred into Ichigo due to his high spiritual pressure. Ichigo is confused about how others can see Rukia, so she tells him that she has disguised as a human with a full body. Rukia desperately wants her powers back, so she knocks into Ichigo's chest, forcefully propelling the Reaper Ichigo out of his body. But when Ichigo uses the same trick of stabbing the sword in Rukia's body to transfer back the powers, it doesn't work. Turns out that Ichigo's energy is too low to transfer back the powers. Having no other choice, Rukia asks Ichigo to work with her as a substitute Reaper. She then explains to him the concept of reaping souls. There are two types of souls, the wholes and the hollows. Wholes are normal souls, and hollows are the souls that died with a grudge. Reapers have two duties. They guide the souls to Soul Society with a ritual called Soul Burial that Rukia used on the soul in Ichigo's bedroom. The other duty is to destroy hollows with the sword to prevent them from devouring souls. Ichigo straight away refuses to perform these duties and wants to return the powers. Rukia advises Ichigo that he can increase his energy by destroying the hollows, but Ichigo is least interested and leaves for home. At home, he is shocked to see Rukia in his room's closet. Despite Ichigo's approval, Rukia decides to live with him and train him the soul-reaping tricks. Just then, Isshin walks in and is unable to see Rukia in the closet. The following morning, Rukia wakes Ichigo early and takes him for training. After vigorous training, Ichigo goes to school only to find out that his friends think he is dating Rukia. Ichigo tries to clear his friends' confusion, but just then, Rukia walks in and steals him away. Despite Ichigo's reluctance, she takes him back to the training. Ichigo is mad and challenges Rukia in combat, but he fails miserably. Seeing them fighting, Orihime stops by and is jealous to see them together. Later, Rukia goes to the Urahara shop to change the batteries of her holo-tracking device. The shopkeeper informs her that she has defied the Reaper Code by giving her powers to a human. Moreover, if her superiors find out about it, she will be punished. In the next scene, Rukia's elder brother, Soul Reaper Captain Byakuya Kuchiki, is shown who wants to detain Rukia for transferring her powers to a human. Byakuya sends his lieutenant Renji Abarai to look for Rukia and bring her back. Renji comes across Ichigo and starts inquiring about Rukia. Ichigo plays dumb and attempts to run away. Renji tries to chase Ichigo, but is driven off by arrows fired from the Quincy tribe member. At night, Ichigo tries asking Rukia her purpose for coming to him, and Rukia keeps stalling his question. She hides it from Ichigo, that if he does not train, he will die. The next day at school, Ichigo's classmate, Uryu Ishida, comes up to Ichigo and starts asking him questions regarding the Reaper. Ichigo is shocked to know that Uryu is accustomed to everything about the Soul Reapers. Later, Uryu tells Ichigo that he is from the Quincy tribe, whose people were killed by the Soul Reapers. Quincy's are spiritually aware humans who live to exorcise the hollows rather than to purify them. They consider the Soul Reapers as their rivals and want to execute them. Since Ichigo has now become a Soul Reaper, Uryu takes his arrow to shoot him. When Uryu notices that Ichigo is not transforming into a Reaper, he challenges him to a hollow hunting competition and deliberately summons the hollows to the town. Rukia senses the hollows around her and rushes to Ichigo. She knocks Ichigo's Reaper self out and asks him to exercise the hollows to increase his powers. As soon as Ichigo hears a boy crying, he rushes to him, only to find a hollow, Hexapodus, walking towards the boy. Ichigo uses his abilities to fight Hexapodus. Since he is not as trained, he is about to be attacked by the hollow. But before that could happen, Renji arrives at the rescue and defeats Hexapodus. Ichigo tries to fight Renji, but is brutally beaten by him. Through Renji and Rukia's conversation, it becomes clear that they were adopted by the Kuchiki clan, who groomed them to become elite Soul Reapers. Just then, Captain Byakuya appears and asks Rukia why she broke the Reaper Code. He informs Rukia that she has committed a felony and will be executed when she departs back to the Soul Society. But she can be forgiven if she takes back her powers from Ichigo right away. Rukia refuses to take back the powers from Ichigo as he will die due to a lack of energy in him. Before leaving, Byakuya gives her an ultimatum to either retrieve her powers back or get ready to die until the full moon. The next morning, Ichigo has a dream of the day his mother died, when he helped the girl near a river. He wakes up with his father sitting next to him. It turns out that Ichigo's mother died while protecting him. On the other hand, Ichigo's friends are worried about Ichigo for not being himself lately. At night, Ichigo realizes that Rukia is not in his room, and so he rushes to Uryu to inquire where the Soul Society is. Uryu is unaware of it and guides Ichigo to the same shop that Rukia visited earlier. Turns out that the shopkeeper of that shop was once a Reaper who was exiled from Soul Society. He tells Ichigo that Rukia is trying to protect him. In the next scene, Rukia is in the Soul Society, explaining to Byakuya that she will exercise the Hollow, Grand Fissure, and redeem her powers back. Moreover, she begs him to spare Ichigo's life. Byakuya refuses to accept Rukia's request, and Renji orders her to kill Ichigo. Just then, Ichigo enters the Soul Society and makes a deal with Byakuya that he will defeat the Grand Fissure and gain enough energy to transfer back Rukia's powers without dying. And if he succeeds in doing so, Rukia must be freed. Then, onward, Rukia starts training Ichigo while educating him about the infamous Grand Fissure, who is more powerful and agile than any Hollow. For 54 years, the Soul Reapers have been pursuing it and have been unsuccessful. Rukia and Ichigo tirelessly train, and Ichigo's classmates are confused to see him working so hard. Later, Rukia acquaints Ichigo that the Grand Fissure has been after him since he was a child. After knowing that the Hollow, Grand Fissure, was initially a girl spirit, Ichigo realizes that it was the Grand Fissure who took his mother's life when he was a kid. Eventually, Ichigo starts manifesting his powers, and the duo is ecstatic about it. On the other hand, Byakuya plans a scheme against Ichigo and Rukia. They think that Ichigo will eventually die while taking down the Grand Fissure. Byakuya orders Renji to exercise the Grand Fissure and also kill Rukia, since she has broken the Reaper code and is in love with a human. According to Byakuya, for a Reaper to be in love is more dangerous than an ailment. Seeing Ichigo's bonding with his family, Rukia craves the same love and care. Ichigo requests her to stay in this world forever, but that is against the Reaper's codes. The next day, Ichigo and his family head out to visit Masaki's grave. On their way, Ichigo stops to fetch drinks for his sisters, but just then, the Grand Fissure attacks Yuzu and Karin. Ichigo and Rukia rush to save the twins. Ichigo transforms into a Soul Reaper and attempts to take over the Grand Fissure, freeing his sisters. After that, he is taken aback by his mother's illusion. When Ishin comes back looking for his daughters, Rukia uses her spell to put him to sleep. The Grand Fissure then pursues Ichigo to town, creating destruction there in form of a tornado. The disaster continues to the restaurant where Ichigo's friends hang out. Ichigo's friends are unable to see him, but Chad and Orihime feel his presence. Ichigo requests Chad to take care of everyone and leaves to continue with his battle. Thankfully, Uryu comes to support Ichigo and starts firing his arrows at the Grand Fissure. Following Rukia's suggestion, Uryu shoots an arrow on the Grand Fissure's forehead, after which Ichigo defeats it superbly. Finally, the Grand Fissure is exorcised for its sins. All of a sudden, Renji appears and stabs Uryu from behind. Byakuya breaks his word and orders Rukia to kill Ichigo right away, but Rukia turns a deaf ear to him. After seeing Rukia's negligence, Byakuya orders Renji to kill Ichigo and Rukia both. Ichigo decides to fight Renji, and the two engage in a long, rigorous battle that ends with Ichigo overpowering Renji. Seeing Renji defeated, Byakuya decides to step in. Ichigo tries to take him over with full power, but is instantly defeated, as no one can overcome Byakuya. Despite being badly wounded, Ichigo doesn't give up and wants to protect Rukia. Before he is about to be taken down by Byakuya, Rukia intervenes and plays a facade of being awakened in front of her brother. She begs forgiveness for her sins and takes the sword, retrieving her powers back from Ichigo. The next morning, Ichigo wakes up and has forgotten everything. Everyone in town believes that the destruction was caused by a tornado, and their memory of Rukia has been wiped clean. The film ends with Ichigo smiling after he sees a note in his textbook that Rukia once wrote for him. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more future videos.